Everyone, and welcome to Inform New Hampshire. My name is Dean, and this is Richie to my right. We have a special guest with us today, Dick Marple, who is a state representative here in New Hampshire. Very happy to have him on. Welcome here, Dick.
Well, thank you for permitting me to participate.
You're welcome. So this is the first time that we're doing this format, which is a 1-hour live format on Tuesday evenings at 5 p.m. for Inform New Hampshire. Richie and I have been doing this for a year. We had some grave concerns for the direction that our country's been headed, so we spend a little time each week attempting to inform people of New Hampshire the things that you won't find on mainstream media, certainly won't find reported in newspapers either. So what we generally cover is a lot of the information that is hidden from you and keeps you in the dark, and so it's our mission to shed a little light on some of the secret society, secret things that go on in this country and certainly around the world. So every week we also want to mention a good friend of ours is currently in captivity out in Nevada. The federal government kidnapped him from New Hampshire, and they trumped up some charges on him, and they are false charges, but we nonetheless can't seem to get that through to them, and he's still under wraps out there. Richie, you want to say a couple things about him?
Yes, I would. There was a rally for Jerry DeLemus Saturday up at the State House, and it was pretty well attended. It was well over 100 people. I don't know the exact number. But while we were there, Jerry actually came on the phone to his wife, and we put the phone up to the microphone, and he addressed all the people that were there. It was very nice to hear from him. He sounded in pretty good spirits. It's 14 months and counting in jail for something he didn't do. Actually, not for something he didn't do. He didn't do anything. They trumped up charges by the federal government. That piece of garbage, Harry Reid in particular, who was a domestic terrorist and should be tried for it. That's my opinion. Anyway, it was nice, and I would ask people to continue to support Jerry and Sue. They were very appreciative of what we've done so far, but let's continue to do that till Jerry's home safe. So pray for him and Sue. And if you can financially, go to freejerrydelemus.com, JERRYDELEMUS, and contribute what you can to help out to his legal aid. I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, we've invited Dick Marple on the show, Representative Marple, because we've been following him in court. He was arrested for driving without a license. And in the state of New Hampshire, and coincidentally, in the other 49 states, you do not need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle or an automobile. I mean, to me, I don't care what you call it. If you're driving your personal vehicle, you don't need a license, period. If you're operating in commerce, then the state has the authority, we've given it to them, to mandate that you need a license. Well, they arrested Dick, and he's taken a stand for the constituents of New Hampshire, the people of New Hampshire. I applaud him very loudly. It takes a lot of guts to stand up and be a leader and a man, and my hat's off to Dick Marple. So we invited him to be on the show and tell his story. And if you don't mind, Dean, I'll just jump in. I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
Dick, if you could just explain your background. And just let me say this before you do.
Sure.
My background is in law enforcement, and what I was taught wasn't the way things are. And when I found that out, which is only about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, I was very angry. Because you go out and you perpetrate this on the public, and you find out, wait a minute, I'm not even supposed to be doing half of this stuff. It kind of gets you angry. It got me angry. So I just wanted to get your feedback, and also a little bit about your background. So if you could do that, we'd appreciate it.
Sure, be happy to. At a teenager, late teen, 19, I signed a contract with the United States Navy for 4 years. And during that, I took advantage of it. I went, hey, join the Navy, see the world. And I did. Got an opportunity to see a volcanic eruption. I really enjoyed my 4 years, but I studied hard. And I took what they call the GE, the college level. So I got a college degree when I graduated, or I should say completed my 4-year term. And I was a first-class petty officer. I went through the first class, and I was very much interested because I had got reached secret because I'm involved with electronic countermeasures. So I had a secret classification, and I was interested in naval intelligence. And believe it or not, that was my first experience with, shall we say, discrimination. And here's how it came out. They're going through my papers, and I said, what's your dog tag? It's supposed to have P for Protestant or C for Catholic. And yours is a D. What the hell is a D? I said, well, I'm a deist. I believe in the power greater than the comprehension of the human mind, but I don't follow any specific protocol of the organized faiths. Oh, we can't have, that was it. Oh, we can't have anybody. So there's my first experience with how government can be corrupted.
You
So
have,
anyway,
you have to believe what they want you to believe.
there you go. So anyway, when I came back, of course, New Hampshire didn't have what they call now the school here. You know what I'm thinking of. I can't even think of the name of it now. Up here, they all have to go to in order to get
The
their
academy?
credentials, the academy or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, Vermont State Police had a contract with Norwich University. So I said, hey, I grabbed on for Vermont, went to Norwich.
Yep.
And at that time we were called peace officers. So as a peace officer, that's where all my authority came from, out of working here. Ralph Caswell was the colonel of the state police at the time. And Ralph was the one who appointed me to the New Hampshire State Police as a criminal investigator. So I had an unmarked car, and what have you, and I was involved in all criminal investigations. And one of the local, shall we say how I got my, if you want, excuse the expression, celebrity was, we had at that time a Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco. That's all they were. They didn't have the firearms with them that they have now. And he lived in Hooksett. And he got a hold of me. He says, hey, Dick, he says, you got a good connection with your informants there. We had a 24-hour truck stop there called Fred and Vise. It was on the 28 bypass at the time. He says, keep an eye and have ear on any trucks with a lot of sugar. He says, because there's an illegal still going on somewhere in this vicinity, and they need the sugar to get the mash fermenting. And he says, they're putting out the finest booze that's being made, and they're down in Boston, all the gin mills down there, filling the bottles and beating us out of our
They're putting the state liquor
tax.
stores out of business.
So yeah, that's right. He says, hey, we got to find this. Well, it was in the winter of 1962 that I'm headed up the 28 toward the Epsom Circle, and there's a road that goes off to the Bearbrook State Park.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, you could see it. The farm is still there with the big barn. As you're going on, you'll see it right at the top of the knoll there as you're going in. And we had snow. And everybody's roof's covered with snow, except the barn. I'm going, wait a minute, no snow on the roof of the barn? I got to check this out. Cows don't generate that much heat.
Yeah.
Usually there's hay up there, acts as a little insulation. Something's going on up there. So I waited for a few days, and we got another snowstorm. So it's 10 o'clock at night, and my wife said, where the hell are you going at this hour? I didn't tell her what I was doing, because I was asked to keep everything confidential by the feds. So I said, I can't tell you, I'll tell you later. Went out, got up and went up there, back park, unmarked, and I came down through the woods with back field. The barn boards were vertical. They had not horizontally vertical.
Yeah.
And I could see little slits of light here and there. And it's snowing like heck. We had probably 4 or 5 inches. And I finally found a slit where I could see through.
Yeah.
And when I saw what was in there, I thought, oh my gosh. Back then, they had 500-gallon steel septic tanks that they used to, they were tied on the outside and so forth. They were septic tanks. And what they had done is they cut the tops off of those 500-gallon tanks. They were all lined up in a row there, where they all mash fermenting, generating the heat, and melting the snow. I thought, oh, he's going to love this.
Right.
So I get in and get down to him, knock on his door. I said, guess what? I said, I found what you're looking for. He says, you got to be kidding me. So I come in and have a cup of coffee. So I went in, and I told him exactly what I just told you. And the first thing he said was, have you made a report to Concord? And I said, no. He says, please don't, because we've got some dirty badges up there. I said, you got to be kidding me. And yes, they had. There was cover-up going on from state police. So what occurred eventually, between the next year, I resigned within about 3 months after the bust we made. In fact, state police didn't even know about the bust until a half an hour before we made pulled it on them.
So you
Yeah.
did bust them for the still?
Pardon me?
You did bust them for the still?
Oh, yeah, they were arrested for the,
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
They went through the whole, the process.
Okay,
But anyway, 55 troopers, and we only had a little over 100 at the time, said, thank you. We shall seek employment elsewhere. We've resigned. And they had a big burden on them to replace us. But anyway.
I remember hearing about that, too.
Well, it was Joe Reagan. Now, I knew Joe well, because he was a former Mass State Trooper. And he had left Mass, and he was chief over in Fitzwilliam for a period of time. Then he went from Fitzwilliam to Keene, and he was chief in Keene for a period until they grabbed him and he went to Nashua. And he was a Republican, so the Republicans were in office at the time, and they said, hey, they grabbed him from Nashua and put him in as the new colonel up there to clean up the mess that was there,
Yep.
which he did. In fact, I still have his credentials that he, reassigned me as far as, I've got it, but it's useless because it was shortly after that.
Well, let
I
me ask you
resigned.
something, Dick, though. At what point in time, if there was such a thing, did you realize that what you were taught as a cop was wrong?
Well, let me put it this way. I can't condemn Norwich University for what they taught me. It's what they didn't teach me. That's the issue.
Right.
It's acts of omission, not commission.
Right.
And the acts of omission are done deliberately in order to control the people. So it's a control factor by virtue of silence. And you know, as I mentioned to you before, silence is fraud. And there's 3 cases. United States versus Tweel, T-W-E-E-L, an IRS case. Look it up and read it. Then there's U.S. versus Pruden, another IRS case. Silence is fraud when there's a duty to speak. But the most important one in those 3 is, and it'll come to me in a moment, I got a little bit of a mental block here.
It's all the same thing, though.
It's all
what
the
you're
same.
talking
Yeah,
about.
silence is fraud.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, no, I don't.
That's
Anyhow,
okay.
escapes.
You
Go on.
mentioned 2 of them, and I'm familiar with both of those. But me and Dean, maybe I'll speak for myself and not Dean, but I've been alleging that all of this omission is done, like you say, by design,
Absolutely.
but it's done by the bar.
Exactly.
The bar is attempting not attempting, they have taken over, they've usurped our judiciary and the executive branch and the legislative branch for that matter, because you have the title of Nobilities Amendment, which is not
Exactly.
supposed to prohibit these people
You're
from working in government.
Absolutely correct.
But they're working in all 3 branches and we allow it.
Well, it's because we don't know. In 2003, I introduced, which was House Resolution 10, which was to commemorate New Hampshire as being the 12th state to ratify the original 13th Amendment on December 9th of 1812. Now, 1812, that's when the War of 1812 was going on. And I believe that the War of, in my humble opinion,
Yeah.
I believe the War of 1812 was an absolute distraction to try and keep the original 13th Amendment a lid on it.
Right.
Because that would have prohibited all lawyers and bankers from holding any office in government except by specific commercial contract.
Right.
In other words, Congress would have to contract with them.
Yep.
And otherwise, they couldn't be elected or appointed.
Exactly.
And that's what the 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment did. It's very interesting because I became an ad hoc member of so-called TONA, T-O-N-A, Titles of Nobility Amendment.
Right.
And I've been involved with it for over 20 years, 30 years almost now. I keep thinking, the older you get, the faster it goes.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I know.
anyway, the original, believe it or not, started with Thomas Jefferson in 1800. And Thomas, of course, he had a write-off. Believe me, when he was reelected in 1804, they figured they didn't get the change that they wanted. And Aaron Burr came in there were 35 votes there before Jefferson got in over. Okay, goes through to 08, get up to 08, And Jefferson's going out after his 8 years, and Madison came in. So when Madison came in, he was of the same, shall we say, the same thinking that you and I have.
Yeah.
Right.
And Madison pushed through in the next 2 years, from '08 to '10, it was in '10, not '10, in 10, that the 13th Amendment was passed. And it was overwhelmingly, I got all the records on that, go through. So it came down to, at the time, 16 members. I talked about members, states, necessary for ratification, 12. And New Hampshire was the 12th state to ratify it on December 9th. It came down on June 6th to Governor Plummer. Plummer was in his second term. Plummer was a lawyer. Did you know that? Yeah, he was a lawyer.
Doesn't
But it
surprise
came
me.
in. Let me tell you what, I'll tell you how Plummer had a little hand under the table on that. What happened, he signed it to committees to study it and come in, which they did in the fall session. And guess what? The committee comes in inexpedient to legislate.
Yep.
That was from Plummer's influence as a lawyer, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
So anyway, they looked at it and said, well, wait a minute. No. And so the committee report was dumped, and the legislature passed it through everything, every person. It's perfect. And so that was on December 9th. It's all over. For those who want to see it and see my actual House resolution, if you go to barefootsworld.net, BAREFOOTS, barefootsworld, all one word, .net. And that's a website which anybody who's interested in history will find it extremely. Bob Patterson, who had that up until 7 years ago, when he passed away.
Yep.
And Bob was a good friend of mine. In fact, he scanned the actual Senate report that I had. I sent it on to him, and he scanned it, and you'll see that on
Okay.
barefootsworld.net, which was a special section on the original 13th Amendment.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Dick, because we record this, and now I can go back and reference that name, because I probably wouldn't remember it. Barefoots.net, I'll check it
Barefoot's
out.
World,
Barefoots.com, yeah.
Barefootsworld.net, yeah, and it's tremendous information. In fact, I don't know if you've seen I used to call it the Little Red Book. It was put up at the Foundation for Economic Education. It was called simply The Law. You got to read it.
So let me
It's
ask
on
you,
there.
I want to ask you this, because myself and Dean have been trying through this particular avenue to educate people, because that's what we have to do. I'm finding that you're trying to do it through the legislature, which I commend you for. Do you feel as though you're successful at that in any way, or?
Well,
I know it's hard, but
let me put it this way. As an individual operating under, I'm just one elected member of the board of directors, because that's what I am, on the board of directors for a corporation that the people created to do the business of their republic.
right.
We're not a democracy, we're a republic. Article
Absolutely.
4, Section 4 guarantees us a republic as a form of government. And so the wisdom of our forefathers, when they put the New Hampshire Constitution together, I don't think there's that much wisdom today in what we have, because the wisdom today has been diluted by virtue of deprivation of information.
Right.
Two words, deprivation, information. If you deny that, it's not that the people don't have the intellectual capacity to understand, but they're being deliberately denied the information in order to make a rational decision.
Yeah, but
Whatever the decision they make, that's it.
our education system, though, has been going down for the past 140 years.
Absolutely.
And since I think 1870 or 1880, somewhere in there, it's just been going down steadily and steadily. Where are we at now, Dean? You said,
The last I checked, which was a number of years ago, we were 52 out of 100 industrialized nations.
yeah,
Well, we have an effort going on now. In fact, I testified on it. It's a bill that's going through this session to mandate, not restore, to mandate, because it's been taken out. Civics.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Civics has got to be mandated in the school because, again, deprivation of information. And that's the way the mind control is done. Very subtly. Very subtly. Like
We-
stealth. STALTH. They're stealth.
We have and we say this all the time, but I'd like to say it here. you can carry it with you if you'd like to, Dick, but on the National Liberty Alliance, myself and Dean are state coordinators. They have a civics course. It's a 120-hour civics course, totally free. Doesn't cost anybody anything. Go there, take the test. I tell people to have your kids do it.
Absolutely.
It's phenomenal. It really is. I had civics when I was in school because
Yeah.
I'm an older guy, and I had the good fortune of going to a
Well, you can see
Catholic
what the
school.
NEA's done to it. That's when they yanked it out. And again,
Yeah.
this was all done by design.
But that course is second to none. I haven't seen anything better than that. And I highly recommend, especially take your kids and take the time to do it. Study it with them on the computer. It marks your place. Wherever you leave, it comes back to the same place for you. You can, if you want a certificate for your child, the National Liberty Alliance will do it. I mean, they're breaking their butt to make sure that people are educated, so I highly recommend it anyway.
Oh, that's great. Again, compatible, but it shows that there's another area of thinking that's going on that we've got to restore civics
Yeah.
because of what we have been led into.
So bring us forward and talk about when you first were elected to office here in New Hampshire.
Well, basically, I was interested in protecting
Yep.
the people.
Yep.
I represent the people. They elected me. I'm not an employee like the rest of these corporate. I got a name for them.
Yeah.
You want to give it a little bit of alliteration. Bruce Bowen. That's a pack of paper, push a pocket picking, prevaricating parasites, perpetuating positions of pernicious political persuasion for personal profit and power.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you for smiling, but
Say that twice.
I can do it.
No.
No, I don't have to. I won't do it. But I've had at some of these public meetings, that's the way I get attention. They go, "Can you say that again?" I said, "Yeah." So, especially the reporters, they get right it down.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, no. See, people don't realize that we have corporate employees. Those are the ones who were appointed. They're not elected. And that's an issue that I have, and if you permit me, I'd like to, because I have never taken, if you put my name, Richard Marple, into missingmoney.com, which if you haven't, put your own name in. You might have a rich uncle that left you something, you didn't know it. Anyway, if you go to missingmoney.com and put my name in, you'll see a whole page, and that's what it says, state of New Hampshire, state of New Hampshire. Well, when I was first elected, I'm in my 5th term now, I was out for a while. As a result of, believe it or not, they wanted to get rid of me because I was called a TW. I mean a TM, troublemaker.
Yeah.
And why? Because I was bringing out what the facts were. Well, anyway, we'll go back to what occurred was well, let me put it gently.
We're not politically correct. Say what you got to say.
Well,
Just keep it clean. That's all.
I mentioned it to you earlier. I became a victim of what I call parliamentary pirating. You say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, I have right now 4 bills, which I never got a chance to speak on at the floor. Because what was done is the chairman, who were all appointed by the chairman of the committees,
Yeah.
and I was told again that the chairman of the committee was told as soon as Marple's bill comes up, you make a motion to table. Well, a motion to table is done, that's got a priority.
Yeah.
Well, this year, I'll tell you one, you can look it right up. It's still there. It's still on the table. House Bill 541. HB 541. So if you put HB 541, you'll see I'm the sponsor of it. And why I did it as an educational tool. In 1784, when New Hampshire's Constitution was ratified by the people, you go to Part 2 where it says Article 15, compensation. So Article 15, compensation, is that as an elected official of the people, I receive $100 a year. It's right there, Article 15. So they sent me a check, $183, they got Social Security, Medicare, and then on my mileage reimbursement, which I've never taken, They've got internal revenue taxing my mileage reimbursement. So anyway, this is why I mentioned.
You can't tax expenses.
You know that, I know that, but we got I call it the CEG, the criminal element in government.
Yeah.
So whenever I use CEG, I'm talking about these parasites,
Yeah.
these corporate parasites up there justifying their own parasitical existence by pushing all this, excuse the expression, through for their own selfish interests, not the people. I represent the people. And it's my function to protect them against the avarice and greed of this corporation that's pushing through all this nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I voted against this. You say, I don't know, I'm recorded because it's a roll call vote. I voted against the budget because the budget was outrageous.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Over 200 million in there.
I wanna ask
But
you-
let me finish up if I
Okay,
may.
go ahead. Yep.
We have, you can do the math now, we have 235 cities and towns, all with elected officials. We have 10 counties, all with elected officials, plus all the elected officials that we have in. Now, I'm talking about elected, not
Yeah.
corporate employees, elected,
Right.
selectmen, dog catcher, whatever. They are paid compensation, not paid, they receive compensation. They're not on a payroll, they're not receiving wages, and they're taking Social Security and income tax, Medicare, or whatever. Well, it's 7.5% Social Security. But guess what? You, the taxpayer, are paying the other 7.5% out of the general fund, which is all leaving the state of New Hampshire. So 15% minimum of the compensation paid to all elected officials in New Hampshire is leaving our economy unlawfully. We got to put a stop to that.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to do, and that's another piece of legislation they put on it. Again, table it.
Tabled it. Yeah.
And
I
that
will-
way, I can't get to the floor and explain to the rest of my, whoever's there, 200, 300, whoever's there at the time, that's the way they shut me up.
I will tell you this, Dick, and it may help you out a little bit. When I worked for the state of Massachusetts, the Department of Corrections and the state police, they have their own pension system.
We did when I was there.
We didn't have to pay
That's correct.
federal income tax.
Yeah.
We paid into the state income tax instead, which I find really crazy, but I'm not going to get into that. It's just,
Well, let me-
just
let
wanted
me-
to mention it.
One of the former speakers, George Roberts, George is a good friend of mine, who was former speaker years ago, and George put a stop to that. What he gave, he gave you your $200, but he gave everybody a 1099 form. If you owed it, well, then that was your decision.
Yeah.
But you got your $200 and you got your mileage. George Robert, in fact, I talked with George. He says, I just told him. I told him they were not employees, the federal government. But New Hampshire, being what it is, has a RSA, which is Revised Statute Annotated. And that means they can change it. Well, a statute is not a law. That's why they call it a statute. But if you go to RSA 282-A, that's employment. Then you go to Section 9, which amplifies it as employment, comma. Roman numeral 4, there's Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, Roman numeral 3, Roman numeral 4, comma. Now, Roman numeral 4 is entitled, quote, and I'll give it to you verbatim, the following are not employees. How clear can you be? Then it starts out with subparagraphs. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. O, you get O. And O's got a subparagraph 1 and 2.
Okay.
Number 1 is elected officials. And number 2 says members of the legislature and judiciary.
Clear.
So there it is in the Hampshire statute.
Clear
We're
as day.
exempt.
Yeah.
So there are multiple millions of dollars that are leaving our state unlawfully. Now, if they just stop this illegal, that's what's going on in the accounting. There'd be the contingent benefit of getting rid of all the accountants that are doing the calculation, how much they're going to steal from you.
Right.
Get rid of those accountants too. Shrink the size of the government. And it's just expanded to justify these parasites.
Yeah.
We got to get rid of them. And that, now, interestingly enough, that 7.5% increase that every elected official would be getting in their compensation means they're going to spend it in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Whether they buy food or drink, food they're going to get nailed for 99%. They're going to feed back to the state anyway
Right,
through
right.
the
Yeah,
rooms
but
and meals tax.
you're keeping it in the state, though.
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be into that state. Keep the bread in our state.
It's our money. We should keep it in the state.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you a quick question. I don't know
Sure.
what we got for time here, but I don't know the process. I'm embarrassed to say, but maybe you can enlighten the viewers too. How do they get the committee chairs?
Yep.
How are they
That's all
designated?
done politically appointment by the
Speaker?
Speaker.
Okay, that's what I
Yep.
thought. That's
Yep.
what I thought, but I
And
wasn't.
so there's an allegiance between the committee chairman and the speaker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He, just like
In
Massachusetts.
fact, she was from Bedford. I'm trying to think of her name. Laurie Sandlin. The current speaker pulled her off because she didn't kowtow to her. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you know Laurie. Or do you? She's basically of our like mind.
Okay.
And her husband, Andy, he's in the Senate. He's put out some good legislation.
Now, you pointed out earlier that these are basically privately owned corporations that are
Exactly.
operating. We point this out all the time on our show, Dick, and the courts are also privately owned corporations. And every municipality in in our country is a privately owned corporation. And I don't know if you know, and I don't want to go down this too, but they all have a CAFR, which is the Comprehensive Annual Financial
Yes,
Report,
absolutely.
which is where they hide the money that they steal from us, and then they talk to us about the budget, which is a
Yeah,
facade that they put up
another-
in order to manipulate
Well-
us emotionally. And hold on, okay, go ahead.
Well, they're two separate things. The budget and the CAFR is what
Of
you're saying.
course.
Yeah, people don't know that, though.
But, for example, this issue that I've been involved in for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
See, I introduced a bill in 2015 to eliminate the Title Bureau.
Okay.
We got 28 parasites over there, all they're pushing paper around. You say, well, what do you mean Title Bureau? Well, you have to have a title for it. No. The United States government requires that every automobile manufacturer have a deed. It's known as a certificate of origin, but that's the deed to the property that they create.
Yep.
Just like give you a deed to your property.
The MSO, Manufacturer
Manufacturer.
Significant
Call it a
Origin.
certificate
Statement
of
of
origin.
origin, yeah.
Now, that goes to the automobile dealer,
Yep.
and it's got everything on it. Whatever that automobile has got, if it's got leather upholstery, it's on there. That's what the deed for it. So that's the original deed to that. So when you buy that automobile, if you were trading in and you're going to finance it, you should have the option of choosing whoever you want, with the local credit union or bank. You should have the option of determining who is going to finance the balance to the dealer, not the dealer. But most of them, they've got a little old
Yeah.
paragraph in your purchase and sales agreement that you give the dealer the opportunity to do that. Well, not only are you doing that, he's acting like his power of attorney for you, but he sends the original certificate of origin to the motor vehicle department.
Exactly.
And they've very cleverly changed the name from automobile to motor vehicle.
And they issue a title after taking
No, they don't issue a title.
No,
They issue a certificate,
certificate.
which
of
they
title.
sell to you as a title.
Yeah.
That's how
It's
they
a
get you hooked.
certificate that you pay for. Now you're entered into a contract, and you're subject to follow the
Taxes.
corporate rules and regulations. Well, people don't know that the right to travel existed prior to governments being instituted. So the right to travel is a constitutional issue, and it's protected by the Constitution. So, by virtue of you unknowingly entering into a contract, that's called non-disclosure.
Right.
And so actually the contracts are unconscionable contracts. So I'm doing a little history, and I said, wait a minute, I don't need any license unless I'm involved commercially.
Right.
Because the only, so to say, jurisdiction that law enforcement has is over the commercial use of the highways,
Exactly.
not as a private traveler. But here's the key. It's all semantics, and I call, let's put it It is. It's semantics. They changed the name to play the game. And the game is to bring in the revenue. So anyhow, my bill got killed. To get rid of those 28 parasites that are pushing paper and nothing else. It's really a duplication of process because the original certificate of origin is your deed.
Right.
So they're really, literally committing a criminal tort called conversion. They're taking your property
Yep.
and they're converting it from an automobile to a motor vehicle. Federal law is right there, black and white. Federal law says all commercial.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's commercial. A motor vehicle is a commercial contrivance used to move goods commercially on the highways.
Well, you cited it in your case, and I thought you did an outstanding job, Shapiro versus Thompson, which to me is a very good case.
Absolutely.
It's-
But we
it's
have
a
a
stellar
better,
case.
even better one. In 1966, this is after the Uniform Commercial Code became the paramount, and it is, statute. And that's RSA 382A. Anybody wants to look it up, RSA 382A, put that into your computer, and you'll see what the paramount is for New Hampshire's interchange between government and you, the people. And they are mandated to operate under the UCC. The reason being is no lawful money. It's commercial paper. And the commercial paper that we are using as a medium of exchange, Federal Reserve notes. So you say, well, Federal Reserve Accounting Unit Denomination. What's the acronym? Federal Reserve Accounting Unit Denomination. Rubbing your nose in fraud, because that's exactly what it is. They're
Yeah.
frauds.
Yeah.
They are instruments of indebtedness. Now, many people don't realize that you go right online and see what it costs the Federal Reserve. I think it's 11 cents now to buy a $100 bill that our national government, not the federal government, the federal government's a corporation, national government is paying to print these bills that they buy because national government can't make a profit. So they have to sell it for what their cost is.
Yep.
I happen to have a friend, he's no longer with us, who lived in Dallas, and his brother worked for the government, repairing the printing machines which were in Fort Worth. That's where
Yeah,
all
right,
that
yeah.
crap is built down in Fort Worth, the paper.
Yeah.
And he used to keep me informed of the stuff that was going on down there. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Unbelievable of it.
Now
Fraud.
you've been involved in a case here in New Hampshire
That's
in
correct.
the court systems. And
Because of-
I want to show a little clip of you
Yeah, please do.
in that process. And if my team here knows that I'm asking for them to switch over the screen, I'll play this clip. But it's you in the courtroom dealing with the magistrate, which is not a judge, and
That's correct.
she is simply ignoring your jurisdiction issue. And I don't know if my team here is going to flip over the screen, but I do want to play this, and I don't have full screen capability, so it's going to be just a small screen. But yeah, maybe they're not listening to me. So anyway, what you're up
Yeah.
against is dealing with a group of people that are operating as a privately owned corporation.
Exactly.
And they're telling you that you are unable to, they accused you of being, go ahead, of having a suspended license when you really didn't even have a license.
I didn't know. I'll tell you what I did.
Yep.
Everybody has, or should have, some sort of a photo ID.
Yeah.
So when the so-called license expired,
Yep.
I went up and had the, filled out with him. But when I signed it, I put TDC, threat, duress, and coercion.
Right.
So that's right at the end of my name. I put these dummies there.
Okay. Yep.
Sealed it up in plastic, and there's my signature with TDC.
They
Okay.
thought it was a title.
So, yeah. So what it did
Made
was
it
I
invalid.
nullified the contractual aspect. My signature would have been
Exactly.
in the contract.
Yep.
But they have the TDC there, threat, duress, and coercion. That
Yeah.
nullifies it. It's
does.
not a contract. It's non-assumptive.
Well, let's watch
It's
this.
non-assumptive, meaning there's no, are you
Let's-
familiar with that term?
Yeah.
Non-assumptive.
Let's
So that's
watch-
what it is, non-assumptive.
Let's watch this little clip because it's when you start the conversation with her, and she's. Let me see if that's going to work. All right, we got it up on the screen.
Yeah. I can hear it.
Madam Magistrate,
believe, I'm correct, if you ask me to participate in a fraud, I cannot do so, but I'm going to put you on notice of Title 42, Section 1983. You'll put on notice for Title 18, Section 242, and you'll put on notice for Title 18, Section 241 particularly. And this is the action that I will be taking for the conspiracy that's gone on for the last over a year, justifying the existence of all these court employees. For what? I pay twice a fee for my freedom and my liberty as a result of you violating Article 87 of the New Hampshire Constitution and sending an electronic warrant to the Hampshire Police Department, who arrested me while I'm sitting in front of a computer at the Hooksett Library. I was attacked from behind, molested, wrenched out of a chair, and I have a brace on my left knee. It was great pain, as well as back pain. Absolutely. They didn't absolutely destroy it. Not only did they, but they did it. And guess what? 2:30 on the afternoon of a Friday, knowing full well that if I didn't give up the $40, that I'd been a slammer over the weekend. This is all orchestrated with animosity toward me because I am revealing the fraud that your corporate government is perpetrating on my people. That's why I'm here. It's not for the money. It's because I'm protecting the people who elected me to protect them from the avarice and greed of your corporation. That's what it's all about.
That was good. So you,
Outstanding, outstanding.
I was very suspicious of how congenial that so-called judge, but the magistrate was with you, and I have this suspicion that she knew she was wrong, and she treated you with kid gloves. She did not. Anybody else that did that in a courtroom would be thrown in the slammer in a moment's notice with her.
Yeah, but because, and I'll just say this, and this is just my opinion too, but I think because you're as knowledgeable as you are, Dick, and you asserted yourself, that intimidated her too. That's my belief. I could be wrong about that.
Well, there was several. But see, but when I first got the summons to go up there, I brought up all the evidence before the hearing. And I said, I'm challenging jurisdiction. In personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, and then you have both, or else you have to dismiss this. And I said, here is a document. This is over 25 years, or maybe 25 years, close to 25 years old. It's called oath purgatory. You say, what the hell is that? Well, an oath purgatory is something which anybody can execute. And when I learned that I was still a United States citizen when I signed my enlistment papers, and the rich would go through it, and they call your name, and you step forward one page. Well, you're leaving your constitutional rights behind you, and you're stepping into the arena of the federal corporation, which the Navy is, a federal corporation, and you're subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, not the Constitution, and they're not compatible. So I'm now a United States citizen. Well, it was for several years after I was honorably discharged, and I'm a life member of the VFW and past commander of my post. But that's been merged now with another post, 8214 here in Manchester. Well, anyway, I learned that whenever action is taken, in order to recover that which you lost, you got to take another action. So it's action and action. You got to take action. You can't. Otherwise, under the law, you're presumed to continue to want to be a United States citizen. Well, going back to Reconstruction era, and that's back in 18 after the assassination of Lincoln, and Reconstruction's going on. And on July 27th of 1868, July 27th, 1868, Congress enacted a piece of legislation which is called 15 Statutes at Large, Chapter 249. And it's entitled, Rights of an American Citizen in Foreign States. Get the term, rights of an American citizen in foreign states.
Right.
So, what it does is it defines the difference between an American citizen and a United States citizen. Because a United States citizen didn't exist until the next day,
Right.
on July 28th of 1868, when the 14th Amendment, which is not an amendment, it's nothing more than a SETI trust, which was created by Congress to give the slave blacks citizenship, but it's second-class citizenship. The free blacks they didn't need it because they were already. In fact, they wore the blue and gray. There were many blacks that fought the North.
Yep.
And people don't know it, and they don't teach it in the schools either.
Yeah.
And the reason they don't, because they don't want them to think about what's going on. Well, anyhow, that's where the second-class citizen started with the 14th Amendment. I am not a 14th Amendment citizen, and yet she used that in her.
Absolutely,
tried to tie me in.
Yep.
She's got my oath purgatory, which defines me as a freeborn American.
Yep.
And that's years ago.
But what the
and that's been
courts-
filed all over. In fact, it was filed with the United States Congress.
What the courts are participating in, though, is total fraud, and I'm going way back to 1868, like you said. That amendment, the 14th Amendment, is fraud.
Exactly.
It's a violation of the
Absolutely.
Constitution, therefore it's null and void.
Exactly.
Back to 1868, there is no statute of limitations in common law, which is this Constitution.
Absolutely correct. But as long as the people are spoon-fed all of this and denied, that again, deprivation, denied the knowledge.
Yeah,
They can't do
deprivation rights,
anything.
yeah.
Their hands are tied and their ears are closed, their eyes are, they're still sleeping.
I'll tell you
Come
this.
on, let's wake them up.
It takes a long time to learn this stuff, though. It took a long time for me. Maybe I'm slower than most people, but it did take me a long time to learn it. But it's worth learning because when you find this out, and I think Dean can speak on this himself, but when I found this out, I was very angry to find out that my government, the people that I elect to protect me, because that's the job of government,
Exactly.
is deceiving me, they're committing fraud, criminal conversion,
Well-
just everything under the sun against the people, and the people don't know it.
Rich, I think you told me that you watched my video.
The money, yes.
On money.
Yep.
And Judge Andrew Napolitano is the one who, that's what I was doing it for.
Right, exactly.
And went in and we were talking. He said, well, Dick, it all comes down to this. And that's what, and I said to him, I said, well, you're absolutely correct. But very few people know what this is. And he looked at me quizzically. And I said, well, you've heard the expression, a picture's worth 1,000 words? Yeah, everybody heard it. Well, then a little drama should be worth 1,000,000 words, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you got a good point there. I said, you got another 5 or 6 minutes? He says, sure. I said, let me get out my props. And what you see in that is what I did for him. And
Where's that again? On
that was done at the Crown Plaza Hotel down in Nashua about 6 years ago.
But it's on
at
YouTube.
the Freedom
correct?
Forum.
It's on
I
YouTube.
think
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
How can,
No. Yeah, YouTube.
How
Do a little
come-
search.
How can our viewers look it up?
Just go into search on YouTube.
Yep.
And put Dick Marple,
Yep.
History of Money. Should be the top one.
History of money.
Runs
Okay.
for, History of Money. Dick Marple, History of Money, in that little search box.
Very good
And
short
enjoy it.
video, yeah. It's very good.
Yeah, because it was designed to make people think, hopefully. And I welcome any criticism.
Well,
All right.
But I've been asked to do some other videos for, promos as you guys
much time
are
we got?
working.
10 minutes.
So,
okay. plenty.
anyway,
Jesus.
I don't want to monopolize it. Go ahead.
No, you're not.
No. I just wanted to make one comment, and I'd like you to throw your 2 cents
Sure.
in, Dick, but me and Dean have been talking about this for well over a year now on the show, that ignorance and fear is what is killing America and Americans because they're not willing to learn. And I'm sorry, the government wants you to be ignorant, stupid, and
fearful.
lazy.
And fearful.
And fearful, that's it.
But
Fear.
if you don't do
What?
it, you are in trouble because it's going to continue. Things are going to get worse. They're spiraling downward and they're continuing in that direction. The ignorance is what we need to do, and that's why Dick is even on this show. We're trying to educate people and tell you he's fighting for the people of New Hampshire. And like I told you before, he's one of my heroes for doing it because we need 100 of him or 1,000 of him to be doing this. We do. The fear, I'm not afraid of anything anymore.
That's it.
There's only one fear that people in this country have, and that's of death and taxes. Well, I don't care about taxes because I'll pay the ones I have to, and the ones I don't. And
Exactly.
death is inevitable for all of us. When it comes, it comes. So
It comes.
I don't fear that.
Let me give you that acronym. You said fear. False expectations appearing real. Think about that, because
Yeah.
that's what fear is.
Yeah.
And when you instill fear, then it denies them the opportunity to evaluate what's going on, because they're all scared.
Yep. Creates resignation.
False
People think
expectations
inevitability.
appearing real.
Things are going to go the way they go. I can't make a difference. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
But they can make a difference.
It's a mind control thing.
Is absolutely.
Yep.
I agree with you 100%.
You know-
That's what we got to awaken those that are watching this show right now.
Yep.
Hopefully, that which we've discussed here then will make them think a little bit.
Yep.
I don't want to be, I hope this doesn't come across badly, but one of the things that I look back on is It's a Wonderful Life. Jimmy Stewart movie back in, I think, 1939 he made it. It was a big flop then. Then it became a classic. And the reason I even mention up is you can make a difference. One person can. This man over here is making a difference in this state because he stood up. Imagine what it would be like if there was 10 more, 15, 20, 100. You can make a difference. Don't think you can't. Telling you right now, you can.
I'll show you how clever they are. I'm going to want you, because on the other videos that are on there,
Yep.
the last one particularly, the one where she held the trial,
Yep.
and she left, hey.
Let me show that right now.
Oh, okay.
Do you mind if they could help me out in the studio? I just want to show where the magistrate actually.
Oh, she tried to invite me into her own jurisdiction.
I'm
Well,
not
clever.
entering into a participation of a fraud. Everything you've got is documented. You will either compel, or you will either comply with that which you're compelled to comply with, or you will pay the penalty in federal jurisdiction. I assure you that, because this is not going to drop here. It's not, as I said, the lousy $100 that the corporate government wanted to extort. The principle is the people that I represent are being ripped off for literally millions of dollars. And the Supreme Court in New Hampshire has stated, as Dr. Bryan said, the automobile is a consumer good. As she walks out,
Consumer goods.
and is defeated by being the first one to leave the battleground.
Very good. Yeah, she was the first one to leave the battleground. She was defeated. Good job. Proud of you.
Excellent,
you.
Dick. Yeah,
Yep. So
job is right. I mean, you're a role model for people out there. I just hope they watch you.
we've pointed out a number of times, Dick, that the courts here, they use a secret language called legalese.
That's
So many
correct.
of the common words that you and I interpret a certain way are used against us by them because they have separate definitions that they use. And we always use this example of the judge saying, do you understand the charges? She's not asking you if you comprehend. She's asking you if you submit to her jurisdiction.
don't.
Yeah.
Stand under
No,
the jurisdiction.
but I have to do, because I gave a copy of the Supreme Court decision
Yep.
in 1967, where the distinction between an automobile and a motor vehicle, the New Hampshire Supreme Court already decided it. She said, well, can't you, then you could appeal it. No, I'm not appealing something that's already been settled.
Right.
The law is the law.
Exactly.
Not the- not what you want.
If she
Yeah.
can't accept the New Hampshire Supreme Court's ruling back then that an automobile is consumer goods, why? Because RSA, that's what it is, Revised Statutes Annotated, A, then you go to 9-109, consumer goods.
Yep.
And that's what the automobile is. So you don't need a license to travel in an automobile. And you don't have to, guess what? Taxes. Pay your town taxes. How much did you pay on your automobile?
Oh,
Your town tax?
every birthday, it's about $350
There you go.
just to be able
It's
to
all bringing
register
in,
my car.
Bringing in the paper.
Yep.
Bring the paper in, not gold or silver. It's commercial paper.
Yep.
Just one thing to follow up with what you said, Dick. Me and Dean have said this numerous times on the show, and that is, if you don't exercise your right,
You don't have any.
you don't have any.
Thank you.
And driving without a license is exercising your right. You have the right to travel. The law says so. I don't care what a judge says. I don't care what the Supreme Court says. They do not interpret the constitutionality of the law. The people do, through the court of record and the common law grand jury. That's why it's in there, and that's why it was taken away from us, so that our system could turn into a corrupt, organized crime ring, and it's working fine for them. It isn't working fine for the people. So
Yep.
please, exercise your rights.
You familiar with Chris Ann Hall?
Pardon me?
Chris Ann Hall?
That name
She,
rings a
she
bell.
teaches the Constitution. She starts out with, how many of you in the audience know the five rights that you have in the First Amendment? Generally nobody knows all five. And then she'll ask the question, how do you know if you don't know your rights, how do you know they haven't already been
Yeah.
taken from you?
Right.
You are.
So,
Exactly.
Exactly. It's an educational effort. That's what, and I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the privilege of permitting me to.
The privilege is ours, Dick,
No,
believe me.
really, it's a privilege to be here, and I thank you for letting me participate, and hopefully get some of the people that are viewing this to start doing a little thinking and talking with their friends and relatives and neighbors that we have got. Now, I mentioned before the Michigan Juror Society. That's
Yeah.
something I'm interested in,
Yep.
in establishing here, and we got to get that in here, where we, the people, can recover.
It's
Well, that
established.
which we
The
had.
paperwork I gave you establishes it. By the way, we the people, the Assembly of Common Law for New Hampshire, which is like what Dick is talking about, has a conference call every Monday at 6:30, and I'll give you the phone number. It's 1-712-770-4908. The access code is 384-885-pound. And anybody in the state of New Hampshire is welcome to come on this.
we're doing just what you were talking about there with the Michigan
Exactly.
Juror
That's already
Society.
started. Oh, that's
We're
great.
working
yeah.
on it, yeah.
That's great. I'm glad, happy to hear that.
So we want your-
I'd like to participate.
we want your
As soon as I
collaboration.
get my table cleared of this nonsense.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be
absolutely.
able
Yeah.
to put some time into it.
I know you're busy with that stuff, Dick, and trying to help those constituents out of New Hampshire, but we need people like you on that platform. And others, like I said, get that guy from New Hampshire, I forget his name,
Well, I'll
ask
tell
him
you,
to get
I'll
in
tell
touch
you,
with me.
It's Ian Freeman, or his actual name is Bernard. He's a talk show host for freekeen.com.
Yep,
And Ian has been very faithful
yep.
in videoing all of my testimony
Yep.
in that I've been up there. Like,
Yep.
and you'll see them because you're going free, and you'll be able to see them.
Yep.
And you can see the testimony that I presented to these.
Crooks.
Corporate crooks.
Yep.
Yep.
Call them what
Yeah,
they
I
are,
saw
they're
'em.
crooks.
Yep. They are.
All right, we're about to close out here. I just want to mention that next week, you wanted to tee that up?
Oh, yes, next week, we're gonna have Susan DeLemus on remotely from her house, I believe, through phone. And I don't have a phone number, I
Yeah.
meant to
So
get
was
it,
one of
and I
my
totally
colleagues in the
forgot.
last session.
Yes.
Uh,
We just saw her at the rally this weekend
Yeah.
for Jerry, her
Yeah,
husband.
it should be an
Yeah.
interesting situation. And the week after that, I wanted to mention this also real quick. We're having Dan Itzy, who's a state representative from the Fremont area, in a debate with Dan Richards on the subject of court of record and common law. And I think it's going to be extremely interesting. I hope everybody watches this. I know that if you're in the city of Manchester, you can see it live. Outside of that, it will be on YouTube on Inform New Hampshire.
Yep, this program, Inform New Hampshire, is also posted to YouTube, also called Inform New Hampshire, and we also have a Facebook group called Inform New Hampshire. So feel free to stop by and subscribe and hit the like button. We would appreciate it. We greatly appreciate you tuning in. Dick Marple, it's fabulous to have you here. We thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the
You're a-
listeners.
you're
and
I appreciate
Dick,
the
thank you.
You're a
opportunity.
gracious and
It's a pleasure.
profound guest. We appreciate it. So everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week.